Today's episode is brought to you by our sponsoring partner, the Campaign for Black Male Achievement. CBMA is a national membership network that's built a vibrant community of over 5,700 members and more than 2,700 organizations that's been working together over the past decade to build beloved communities across America where Black men and boys are healthy, thriving, and enabled to achieve their fullest potential. If you're interested in learning more, hop on over right now to tbpod.com/partners and consider joining the membership or donating to help them scale the impact of this growing field of Black male achievement.
You're listening to the Trailblazers.fm podcast, where we'll explore the stories of today's successful Black professionals, entrepreneurs, and leaders. Join us to access the knowledge, resources, and tools of these accomplished professionals and come away with the know-how, confidence, and motivation you'll need to blaze your trail. And now, here's your host, Stephen A. Hart.
Hello and welcome to the Trailblazers.fm podcast. I'm your host, Stephen A. Hart. We are now a month into our 2019 Trailblazer Entrepreneur Series. And if you're an accomplished or maybe even an aspiring entrepreneur, I want you to know you've got a ton of really great information spread out across this past month of episodes. And we're still not done yet, right? So stay locked in, keep listening, begin putting some of what you're hearing, some of these gems, begin putting some of them into application right away. And in fact, if you've applied some of what you've learned, hit me up. Let me know what you're working on, what you're able to apply from what you heard, good or bad. I love to hear what's working, right? And what you're actually taking away from this content, right? I am doing a lot of work to get these episodes up, and it's just so helpful when I understand what the impact is. So our featured trailblazer for today is Raymond McKenzie. Ray McKenzie is the founder and managing director of a company called Red Beach Advisors. And Ray has over 20 years of experience as a business executive, as a consultant, and now as a business owner. And you're about to hear some of Ray's gems around entrepreneurship and also leadership. Before we dive in, I want to give a shout out to Apple Podcast handle T. Frederick D, who left us a 5-star rating and a review titled Awesome Content, which I wanted to share with you. His review read, "Great job, my brother. I love the fact that God shines in your podcast. We'll share some of your podcast highlights on our various social platforms, and hopefully it'll encourage others to listen." Listen, thank you so much for that review over on Apple Podcasts. For those of you who have not yet left us a rating and review, do me a favor, hop into your podcast app on your preferred Apple device. Write us a review today. I want you to share what you enjoy most about listening to Trailblazers.fm. We are approaching our 200th episode and also our 200th rating in the Apple Podcast app. And so I'd love to hit that milestone in line with our 200th episode. So help a brother out if you've not yet done so. Otherwise, go ahead and grab your pad and pen or open your note-taking app. Let's get set to receive today's mission fuel from our featured trailblazer, Ray McKenzie. Ray, thank you so much for being our featured guest today.
All right. Thank you for having me today. It's a pleasure.
So Ray, we start every conversation off from a place of gratitude. I wanted to pick your brain and hear, what you're most grateful for in your life right now.
Gosh, I'd say my family. I know we talked a little briefly during the introduction, but it's definitely family. Having my wife and been extremely supportive of me and my career since I started for the most part. And then obviously my 4 kids. So with the 4 kids being happy, healthy, and playing sports and doing well in school and being very active, absolutely grateful for that. The support, to be successful, you kind of have to have a great support network. They've been very understanding. Obviously, I travel quite a bit for my clients and customers, but I also make it home all the time for a lot of things. But there's an understanding there. Mm-hmm. And so that understanding and support, that means the most.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Ray, where are you from? I know you said you're in Cali. Is that where you grew up?
I grew up in a place called Atwater, California. It's north of Fresno, California, a small town. My parents were Air Force.
Okay.
My dad did 22 years. My mom did 8 years. And so from there, grew up in Atwater, California. It's a very small town. Father retired there from the military. And then I went to San Diego State, finished school at San Diego State, and then moved to the Bay Area. My wife is from the Bay Area. We were having our first son at that time. And I lived in the Bay Area for about another 13 years. And then a company hired me, relocated us to Los Angeles to do global strategy and service delivery. And so now we live and reside in Redondo Beach, California. From there, I started my own firm about 4 years ago, Red Beach Advisors. I received a couple of calls from executives that needed some help, and I fell into the consulting world.
Good stuff.
That's kind of how it happened.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Bring me back to Atwater. Tell me something about, growing up there.
So Atwater is a town of about 25,000 people. There was an Air Force base there. Pretty diverse because of the Air Force base. So you had, a good mix of all races and types. However, now, base is closed. It's a very agricultural centric area. So, I get a lot of jokes about cow tipping and being from the country and things of that nature. Really small town, really good group of people. I enjoyed it. I've lived in the very smallest of cities, and now I live in kind of one of the larger metropolitan areas. So it worked out really well.
You like music?
Love it.
Yeah? What kind of music you listen to growing up?
Oh, man, let's see, guys. I'm a big R&B guy, but I'm also a big hip hop guy, obviously. Yeah. So, that's kind of what I listen to, man. It's when I'm in the gym, it's all hip hop. When I'm usually hanging out working, it's usually mostly R&B. And when I'm on flights, it's typically R&B.
Nice. What drew you to your line of work and what you're doing?
Gosh, when I was young, I was always involved with computers to an early extent of my career. And then once I went to college, I studied management information systems, which is the business side of computers. From there, I received an internship, and I started on the path of kind of being a network administrator, system administrator. So your typical back office IT support guy. I did that for a few years, and then I was like, well, I can make a decision to continue to allow companies like Microsoft or Red Hat or, the development of software kind of guide my career, or I can take it into my own hands and start to use some of my skills in terms of talking and interacting with people, clients, and customers. So from there, I made a shift to kind of lead network operations groups and customer support and service delivery groups. Okay, so then I started to utilize my ability to talk, my ability to interact, my ability to, work with clients and develop good relationships. So we did that. I made that change. And then that's kind of where my career started to take off for the most part. While I was still primarily focused in tech because I was focused in internet infrastructure, working with a lot of solutions around the .com and .net of the internet, top-level domains, domain infrastructure, cybersecurity, then that always tied back to my tech background.
Good stuff, man.
So that's kind of how I got started and how it moved forward. It started just kind of being a back office tech guy, system administrative, network administrative person, tech support, network operations. And then I took my ability to be able to speak and communicate well and develop relationships. And that's kind of how I got into, the tech world, and my career really started to move in the right direction.
Yeah. Good ingredients for Red Beach, right? So let's talk about that. Tell us a little bit about Red Beach Advisors and a little bit about the company and what's driving you in the work that you find yourself doing today.
All right. So Red Beach Advisors primarily started, a company had relocated us out to Los Angeles to do global strategy and service delivery. So I was in Europe, I'd say every 3 weeks, which was good. It was exciting. It was fun, experiencing a lot of different cultures. And then what occurred was, I had a couple of CEOs that I knew from previous relationships reach out to me and say, hey, Ray, I need you and your skill set to come in and help our companies kind of grow and scale appropriately. So they were at points in the career and the points in their companies to where they were experiencing growth, hiring people, process, procedure, technology, and needed to figure out a proper strategy and which way to move forward. So with that, I started to take on those engagements at the same time. And that's when I found out what I like to do. So I was able to work on projects I like to work on. I had a chance to work with people I wanted to work with. I had a chance to dictate my rates in terms of what I wanted to charge for my fees. And then I was also able to control the quality of life that I had. So I was able to, if I wanted to go to the gym at 10 in the morning, I could do that. If I wanted to make my children's games or practices, I could schedule around being there for that. And that was extremely important to me at that time. And so once I was able to do all of those 4 things, it was just like, hey, I've got 2 clients that are already on board. They're paying the bills. It looks like it could be promising. I could be on to something. And that's how I developed Red Beach Advisors. So Red Beach Advisors is focused around being able to help companies build, grow, and scale through strategy, process, technology, and people. Mm-hmm. And what we do is we work with companies, and when it comes to strategy, it's based around business and product strategy. When it focuses on process, it's primarily operational efficiency, whether it's based around Six Sigma or lean principles or ITIL structure, developing that proper process to be as efficient as you can within the business to reduce waste and reduce costs. Then technology, because that's kind of primarily my background. I've worked in internet infrastructure. I worked in cybersecurity and cyber intelligence. I've worked in identity and authentication. I've worked in the mobile space. I do a lot of work with cloud computing, digital transformation. And so through all of that, finding other consultants that could do the same thing. And then in terms of people, it's focused around leadership and organizational development. And so throughout my career, I probably hired more than 2,500 people. I probably interviewed more than 10,000 people. And I've led groups globally with multiple offices worldwide. And so through that, acquiring a team of consultants that are around those focal areas and saying, hey, let's move this practice forward and let's start offering that to companies that are in the marketplace. So the companies that we support, there's kind of 2 sections primarily. There's the private sector and the public sector. You being in Maryland, you're probably very familiar with the public sector, which is federal government, cities, states, municipalities, counties, different organizations that support public infrastructure or public departments. Then on the private sector side, it's primarily Fortune 500 companies, Global 2000 companies, the really large organizations that are global, along with a lot of early stage seed or Series A companies, which are those companies that may be smaller teams, maybe 2 people, maybe up to 10 people, and maybe even up to 200 people based upon where they're going and where they're scaling. And so those are the 2 sizes of companies that we seem to have developed the most traction in, because the early stage companies need to build, grow, and scale. And then the larger global companies have issues with business divisions that they need to correct. And they understand that they may not have the expertise inside their business. So they bring us in to be able to do it, to help them with that.
As you're talking, you touched on clearly the pivot to this full-time role as an entrepreneur. Talk me through some of the sacrifices, right? Because you often shift from, the start to kind of where you are, but in the middle, it's a roller coaster, right?
Gosh, man, it starts with early mornings and late nights. If you're not willing to put in the time to, build the business and to work on it, night in, day out, night in, night out, it's possibly not for you. You get to a point to where you have some days where you can work 4 hours a day and maybe 2 hours a day and make your schedule comfortable and take vacations when you want. However, to build a business and to start a business and to make sure it's successful, it does take a lot of time.
Yeah.
Time intensive. You have to be focused. You have to be dedicated, and you have to not quit. You got to persevere. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs. And so to get to your question, kind of for me, the movement to it, year 1 for me was relatively easy. And I'll say easy because I started consulting and I started Red Beach Advisors with clients. So that's very different than most entrepreneurs who are either building a product or service or are starting a business and have no customers.
Yeah.
So I didn't just jump into it with no customers. I jumped into it with a couple of clients already. They were already paying the bills. They were already paying invoices. So I was revenue generating on day 1. A majority of customers, a large majority of new businesses, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, whatever you want to call it, day 1, they have no customers.
Yeah.
And then they have to take that from 0 to possibly 1 million and figure that out. So year 1 was okay. It was the area where I was comfortable. Year 2 was a challenge for me. And why year 2 was a challenge was because I was never the salesperson. I always had people calling me. And so year 2, you realize that contracts do end in the consulting world. People movement does happen. So executives change organizations and move, and that doesn't always secure your role or your project or what you're working on as a consultant. And so year two was really an up and down year to where I had to evaluate what I was strong at and what I wasn't strong at. Okay. So I was able to go back and say, well, I'm not a salesperson, but let me learn how to sell my business. Let me really start to brand my business. Let me really start to develop these taglines. Let me be able to explain exactly what my company does and how we do it. And then year two was that growth as a salesperson. Mm-hmm. Luckily, year two ended up higher than year one. So that was a good thing. So, we had triple digit growth from year one to year two, which was fantastic. So year two was a lot of relationship building, a lot of calling, a lot of sales efforts, a lot of partnership development, port dev, you could call it. And, eventually through all the revenue, I was able to make sense and bring in the revenue and everything worked well. Year three was that year of kind of exponential growth to where I actually saw that everything I did in year two in terms of relationships and making the phone calls and just talking to people and sharing ideas, year three is when all of those things came to fruition. And that's when the partnerships really started to take off. A lot of the CEOs were like, this is the perfect time. What I found is relationships take about 12 to 18 months to really foster on a business and professional level. If you think, gosh, if I say I want a 6-figure contract from you, I can't expect to just call you up day one and you're just going to trust me and say, come on in, let's make it happen. It's going to take time, effort, and showing the delivery to be able to get those contracts. Mm-hmm. And so everything in year two worked in my benefit in year three, and year three went amazingly well. And now we're in year four. We've got a great team of consultants, a great team of, a great roster of clients. Not sure if you've seen the website. We're continuing to grow and things are moving in the right direction. So it's always up and down. You have good days, you have bad days. You have to be very self-aware.
How do you keep positive, during the downtimes and the failure, the seasons where there's big challenges? What keeps you motivated?
I look at it like I can't go back. I think that's the one thing, which is, I'm not going back to Atwater, California. I'm not going back to Atwater, California. I'm not going back to my mom's house. I'm sorry. It's just not an option. And so you just want to stick at it. You just got to keep sticking at it. And everything that drove you to want to start your business or want to be an entrepreneur or what you wanted to gain should be that daily motivation to go after what you want to get.
Yeah.
So one of my major drivers is obviously I want the ability to be able to visit my kids, see their games, do whatever I need to do. My oldest son goes to school in New York right now. If I want to pick up and fly to New York and go see him and go do dinner, I can choose to go do that. Mm-hmm. If my sons have baseball or basketball games, I can go ahead and make those practices. If my daughter has a cheer recital or a cheering event, or she's cheering on Saturday morning or anything like that, I can make that. And I have the ability to do so. So that's the driver. Sometimes it's that quality of life and that power. I call it the power of choice.
Right.
Being able to say yes or no to what you want to do with what your life is.
Right.
And to give that to someone else, again, which I did for 15, 16 years, it would be tough for me to want to go back to that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. As you're talking, I think you're speaking to this, but are there specific habits that you've developed that have, as you talk about, the timeline to develop some of these relationships, right? And to see things go in that, positive direction. What are some of the habits that you've developed that have helped you turn some of these outcomes from good to great?
I think the ability to turn something from good to great has been the ability to develop not only that professional connection with people, mm-hmm. but that personal connection with people.
Absolutely.
So, as hey, I can say such person provides a great service and that's great. Let's sit down and, let's talk about it. But if you understand what motivates them personally or what their drivers are as a person, or so why they're in business or why they're doing what they're doing, or maybe where they went to college or if they have their wife and kids, or, whatever their situation is, whatever that internal driver is for them or what's important to them, understand that, be able to relate to it and build a relationship off of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's always helped me. So not only do I try to develop the professional relationship, which is Red Beach Advisors can deliver on whatever project we're going to be engaged on, my goal is to also develop a personal relationship with those people as well, to a certain extent, which is, hey, how did your son do in his baseball game this weekend? Or, how's your wife's venture going? Or, what is your partner working on, and where are they traveling this day of the week? And develop some sort of personal relationship so you can understand what their drivers are. It could be hobbies, it could be family, it could be, children, it could be, whatever their passions are. Try to understand that, develop that relationship, and then continue to foster not only the personal side, but the professional side.
Yeah. You talk a lot about the lifestyle end of the business and how it affords you the ability and the freedom. I'm curious, do you have a large team on board? Is there a lot of in terms of resources, are there, a good base of people that work for Red Beach?
Yeah, we're a total of 6 people with a wider network of about 20 to 25 different net consultants.
Got it.
With that, it's one of those things too, within the firm itself, I'm always on the road, I'm traveling, I'm meeting people, I'm doing dinners and things like developing those relationships, so I'm able to dictate my schedule for the most part. But I also work on projects as well. So it's not only myself, but also my team, and we're all working on moving things forward.
Yeah. Ray, all the leaders, all the CEOs I talk to talk a lot about the importance of having really great people around them in their company, right? And so, I'm wanting to maybe pick your brain about why it's important for you to maybe empower and be able to uplift the people that are in your office for obvious reasons that you just touched on, right? You're out on the road and you need to have, I'm sure, to have the trust in the people that you leave behind, right?
Definitely. I think in the consulting world, it's all about delivery. Your brand is based around delivery and your brand is based around trust. So you have to bring in great people that, one, you have to understand what their motivations are in their careers,
right,
where they want to go, where they want to develop, and try to give them a clear path in terms of how to do that. And then if you provide them with projects that help them continuously grow, continuously expand kind of their knowledge, and then also kind of teach them the business to a certain extent, that always gives them motivation to be able to stay on board and deliver and deliver and deliver. People are paramount to the success of any company that you see. That's just how it works. If you have great people, you provide a great culture for them, and then you'll see that they'll continuously grow. Your company will continuously grow. Everybody will be motivated, and everybody will be looking and moving in the right direction. I think that's always a big thing. It's important to make people feel wanted. It's important to make sure they're compensated correctly. It's important to make sure that they feel like a valued part of any team. And it's important to understand what's important to them. One of the things I tie back is obviously a theme is personal relationships. So we have to have good personal relationships all around, not just with, clients or customers who cut the biggest checks, but all of your clients and customers, and especially all of your employees and or consultants that you work with too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Take you away from business for a second and talk to you about life in the broader context of business. You talked about, listening to hip hop while you're in the gym. How related is your business success to your personal health?
Gosh, man, I try to wake up every morning. I'm in the gym at like 5 a.m.
Really?
And, I just read a book, and I know you're going to ask me about books later, but it's called The Keys to Success, 17 Principles of Personal Achievement. It's a Napoleon Hill book. And so I just finished that, I'd say about a week and a half ago. And, one of the things that I've recognized is, and I'll go back to early in my career. So I've traveled a whole lot in my career. I've traveled a lot of places. I've got a lot of miles on one specific airline that I won't specifically mention. But, I've stayed at one chain of hotels by one airline. But one of the things I learned in my career, I wake up in the morning, I go to the gym, and who else was in the gym was a lot of other CEOs or executives.
Mm.
And so they do the same thing, which is they wake up in the morning and they get their day started with a workout of some sort, whether it be a run, whether it be whatever it may be. That's what I saw them do. And so, in my career, I was like, oh, if they're doing that, I also need to do that too.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's all. That's kind of where it started. I mean, I worked out obviously in high school, but played football. I worked out a lot when I was younger. And then getting my career started, kind of fell off a little bit. And then once I started traveling quite a bit for my career, then I started to notice the habits of successful people.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the habits of successful people are that every day they work out. And there's a lot of different benefits to it, which is it gets my mind going, gets my body feeling good. I'm also clear-minded. I'm also able to take my eyes off the computer or off my phone for a period of time,
Mm-hmm.
which is good. So I'm kind of able to decompress. I'm able to step away. I'm able to just focus on my health. And I'll say it's for anybody, which is, the big thing is on Facebook. I always post when I'm in the gym, take care of the body, because, if you're not healthy, you're not good to anybody else.
Mm-hmm. That's so true.
So, if you're not taking care of yourself, whether it be a 30-day workout, whether you're trying to eat as good as you can, and I'm not the healthiest eater, but I try, you got to kind of take care of your body as much as possible, because then that ties back into your brain and being healthy. If you're sick, you're no good to anybody else.
That's right.
And so to drive things forward, try to get a workout in as much as possible in the morning, every day at least, and just get the mind going in the right direction, get the body energized. You feel a lot better. I'll tell you this, there's places I've never seen people upset. That's when, after they're done with a good workout and when they're at the beach, you never see people mad.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Let me ask you mentioned having 4 kids. What do you teach your kids about business?
Gosh, I think, my oldest son right now, he's an entrepreneur at heart. He's got business ideas and wants to launch those. I think it's mainly, and they see me and what my struggle has been. And my wife is also an entrepreneur and has her own public relations business. And so they see kind of how we've moved along. And the values of the business are, you've got to develop something that people want and need.
Absolutely.
Don't build something that you want, because you may be the only person that wants it.
Yeah.
Build something that other people want to buy. For my kids, it's the principles that I try to share is that you need to be as detailed as you can be. You need to persevere and work through the struggles and don't quit. And sometimes you're going to fail. Some ideas are bad. Some ideas aren't good. Sometimes you're going to be behind in terms of ideas you came up with. Sometimes you're going to be way ahead of ideas you come up with. But if that's really what you want to do and you want to run a business, you stick to it. You have to stick to it. You have to work hard. The work ethic is important, and showing up and delivering is important. I tell everybody this, including my kids, there's a couple of things that you can't teach people. You can't teach people how to show up on time. You either get it or you don't. The other thing is you can't teach people how to work hard. You either have it or you don't. So I can teach you anything. I can teach you how to, you can learn how to build a rocket. You can learn how to run the right football routes. You can learn how to do any mathematical question. You can learn how to type 120 words per minute. You can learn all of those things, but you can't learn how to show up on time. And you can't learn how to have a great work ethic or put in the work. There are 2 things that are just kind of inherent. You either want to or you don't.
Yep. I love that.
Those are all personal decisions.
Love it, Ray. Love it. Let me ask you and you touched on one here by Napoleon Hill, but what are some books you're reading or that you've read that you think we should be adding to our book queue?
Gosh, let's see. I just finished reading a book called Getting to Yes. I just finished it on the plane yesterday back from Seattle. So it's called Getting to Yes. It's a book about negotiation. And so it kind of teaches you about the art of negotiation through a study at Harvard Business School, which is very important. Negotiation is kind of the crux of all the deals. Obviously, I just finished 17 Principles of Personal Achievement, which was really good. And that's by Napoleon Hill. This next book I'm reading, which I have right here to my left, is What the Heck is EOS, which is kind of an entrepreneurial operating system kind of methodology. And so I want to read about that. Then there's another book. I've got a whole list of books over here, by the way, I'm looking at. And I've got this book called The Startup Way by Eric Ries. I've got another book that's planned, Your Strategy Needs a Strategy.
Love it.
And so, one of the things, and then the other book is this book called Tribes by Seth Godin as well. So that's kind of a cultural book. But I try to end my night now with reading at least 2 chapters a night of a book. And so that takes my eyes off the computer. That allows me to take my eyes off my phone, kind of focusing on the books, trying to learn more. You know, the one thing that they don't necessarily teach us in school is probably everything you want to know is in a book.
Love that.
Probably everything you want to really know is in a book.
Without question. That's so true.
you just have to open them up and read them.
Yeah.
So, you know, whether it be personal experiences, whether it be how people overcame tragedy to triumph, whether it be you want to learn about the stock market and investing, to where if you want to learn how to develop a mobile application, to if you want to, you know, build a wildly successful radio show, it's probably all in a book. You know, I'm hard pressed to find something that's not in a book.
That's right. Last question for you. We'll wrap up. What's one action that our Blazer Nation should take that's going to help them to blaze their trail this week?
I think this week, everybody should try to call 5 different people who own businesses and or CEOs this week. And not necessarily ask them for business, just ask them how they're doing. Do that.
That's that relationship.
Say, how are you doing?
Yeah.
How are you doing? Just checking in with you. You know, just how are you doing?
Yeah.
And that's it. And nothing else. Just how are you doing? Everything fine? Family fine? Just checking in. Wanted to ask how you doing? Blah, 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 blah. Okay, good. Just making sure. Talk later.
I love that, Jim. That's a good one. Tell us how we can stay connected to you and learn more about Red Beach.
Gosh, let's see. So obviously the website is www.redbeachadvisors.com. That's REDBEACHADVISORS.com. You can also find us on LinkedIn at Red Beach Advisors. You can also find me on LinkedIn at www.linkedin.com/IN/Raymond McKenzie, the founder and managing director of Red Beach Advisors. And then obviously I'm on Twitter, not so much, but Twitter handle is Ray, RAYMC209. 209 is for Atwater, California. And then
love it.
You know, those are kind of the primary areas to reach out to me. And I'm always, if you add me on LinkedIn, I'm always willing to hop on the phone, talk for 30 minutes. You know, I'm always willing to, share some ideas, brainstorm, go back and forth, learn more about what people are doing, how they're doing it, answer questions. If I can provide any insight, try to make myself available as possible.
Good stuff. Ray, thank you so much, my brother. Been a great conversation.
All right. Thank you, my man. This has definitely been a good one. I enjoyed this. You know, it's good to talk to you. Definitely good to talk to your audience. And I thank you for having me.
I'm Steve Nehart, and you've been listening to the Trailblazers.fm podcast. If you're not yet doing so, consider following Trailblazers.fm on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and feel free to connect with me over on LinkedIn. Whenever you're posting stories or social media posts about Trailblazers.fm, be sure to use the hashtag TBPod and hashtag Mission Fuel. We'll be able to see you, and I'll be able to show some love. And in case you're not aware, our show notes for all our episodes can be found on our website over at tbpod.com. Now, if today was your first time listening, I just want to say big ups, enough respect for checking us out. You've made this Jamaican guy really happy that you're here with us today. And I'd love your help with keeping this Black excellence flowing each and every week. So if you haven't yet subscribed, hop on over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Search Trailblazers.fm and subscribe, rate, and review us there. Be sure to browse through some of our past episodes. There are more than 150 published episodes now, and a little something is out there for everyone to help keep the knowledge flowing. We grow when you, as part of our Blazer Nation community, shares and invites your friends and family to listen to an episode you think might impact them most. We believe that someone listening to these inspiring stories are going to be moved to make significant changes that have generational impact for many others, both now and well into the future. Don't miss next week's episode. New episodes are released each and every Monday morning at 5 a.m. Eastern. Blazer Nation, go out today and find a way to rise above, go way beyond, and keep blazing your trail.